Hey everyone, it's Inigo here and welcome to my channel. If you're a returning viewer, you can probably tell that I'm in a new location. That's because I'm in England for the Christmas holidays, spending time with my family. Having said that, the Finnish language learning journey never stops. And talking about that, I'm hopefully gonna start a course today, like a Finnish language course. This is going to be part one. I'm currently like level A2.2, maybe B1 in some aspects. So hopefully by the time I finish the course, depending on how long I do it for, I can hopefully help people with this course to get to get up to like A2.2 or maybe even B1. But today I'm going to start with personal pronouns, as it's part one. If you already know some Finnish and you're a good level of Finnish, this will probably be like super useless to you. But obviously feel free to watch anyway. If you just love the Finnish language, then of course just watch. But if you're starting your Finnish language journey, or you're like at the start of your Finnish language learning journey, then this should be a really useful lesson for you. I'm basically going to take you through the foundational building blocks of your Finnish language, and you're going to basically use these with all of your Finnish going forward into the future. And this is essentially personal pronouns. We have personal pronouns in the English language, for example, you, me, we, they, he or she, for example. They have these in Finnish too, but they're even more important, in my opinion, in the Finnish language. And depending on which one you use, that will also influence the verb that comes after the pronoun. So quite important. You really can't speak Finnish, or you can't speak Finnish with any accuracy without learning these principles. With this lesson, I'm going to be using the verb olla quite a lot, or with all of it. Olla means to be. I know my background isn't like amazing. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but I'll try and put some text against this white wall. But I'm going to use the verb olla, which means to be. So in Finnish, there's a lot of different verb types. I don't even know all of the verb types, and I would say most Finnish people don't know the verb types. I don't even think it really gets taught to Finnish people as they grow up, but it gets taught to us if it's a second language. So I don't know any of the verb types really. I know like a couple of them, but for me, I just sort of learn the patterns. It's not really important to know like which verb type it is, and I don't think Finnish people are thinking about what verb types they're using. So I'm hopefully going to teach you how to use olla, and hopefully I'll teach you how to recognize one pattern and how to apply this to different verbs that have the same kind of pattern. So we've got the verb olla, which I'll put on the screen here. To use olla, we're going to split any verb that has two L's and an A. You will take off the la from the end, so one L and an A, and you replace that with an E. Okay, so you'll go from olla to ole, olla to ole. Okay, and that creates the body of your verb, which is known in Finnish as the vartalo. This is really important to learn. Because a lot of the conjugations, or most conjugations that you'll use with different verbs, you'll need to know the vartalo so that you can add more to the end of the verb. So I'm going to teach you, or hopefully I've taught you already, how to conjugate any verbs that end in an L and an A. This also applies if it ends in an NNA or also an RRA. It's the exact same principle. I think this is verb type 3. But hopefully I'll create some videos later on where we'll go through different verb types. But okay, so let's start. So the first thing that I'm going to teach you is I am, or like in English it would be I am. In Finnish, we're going to say minä olen, minä olen. So minä is I or me. Olen, as I said before, comes from the verb olla. And as I told you before, we create ole from olla, and then we add different endings to ole to indicate like who's talking. So whether it's me or you or we, etc. And in Finnish, because of the way that you conjugate verbs, it isn't even really that necessary to use like me, minä, or sinä. etc. Because the verb indicates already that it's me. So to explain it a little bit further, mina olen. The olen alone already indicates that it's me, but I'm adding me or I with mina before that. That's like kirja kieli, so that means like book Finnish. If you're going to learn how to write and read, probably knowing how to say mina olen is important. But in spoken Finnish, it's not really that important. But okay, so that's the first one. Minä olen, which means I am. The next one we're going to do is sinä olet. Sinä olet. So as I said before, with the first one, we've changed ole to olen. Anything ending in an N, any verb ending in an N indicates that it's first person me. Similarly, sinä olet, any verb ending in one T, that will be you, so that refers to you, and it's a singular you. So in Finnish, they've got a singular you and a plural you, so it's important to remember that. But yeah, we've gone from olla to olet, and for me, like, I started learning Finnish through Duolingo, which was like, it was good. I learned stuff, but I didn't really learn like why things were the way they were. And I didn't even really realize that olla is the base of like all of these conjugated versions. So in Finnish, if you are starting Finnish, it will be really important for you to, like, for example, if you use Duolingo and that's the source of your like Finnish, I would encourage you to learn the basic form of all of the verbs and then learn how to conjugate them. Because like earlier on in my Finnish, and even still now, I would know how to say like the mina version of a verb, but I wouldn't actually know like what's the basic version of the verb. So I think early on you'll know like how to say different verbs in different forms, but you might not actually know like the basic version of the verb. So for example, we'll use another verb that's similar to olla, which is kävellä, which means like to walk. If I said minä kävelen, that means like I walk. So for example, what I'm trying to say is I might know kävelen, and I might know like what it means and how to use it in like a me form or minä form, but I wouldn't necessarily know it comes from kävellä. So I think for me it's important when you're learning Finnish to just be curious and look up like what's the basic form of the verbs, and then you'll initially start to learn these patterns that are really important. So just learning how all of the different verbs like conjugate. So like I said with olla, you'll take the one of the L and the A off and add an E. So it's kind of important to kind of start learning these patterns. Anyway, that's probably longer than it needed to be, but anyway, the next one I'm going to teach is han on. So this basically means, to an English speaker, this means he or she is. But in Finnish, there isn't really a concept of he or she. Like he and she, both of them are han. And like Finnish people, when they're learning English, it's quite common for them to like talk about a man and say she, or talk about a woman and say he, just because like those concepts really just don't exist in the Finnish language. So for me, instead of thinking about like han means he or she, I really think about han as like they, singular. So obviously like pronouns is like a big issue nowadays, but in that sense, like Finnish was way ahead of its time, because Finnish just doesn't incorporate he or she into the language. And so for me, like I might consider han as like singular they or singular them. But yes, so han on is how to say like he or she is or they are, singular they, remember. So with so this is kind of different. So when I said with the ole or olla, when it comes from olla, then it changes to ole. This one's a little bit different, but to recognize whether you're talking about he or she, the end of the verb will typically have like a double vowel at the end of the verb. So I'll put some examples here so you'll be able to recognize a little bit better. Like if a verb has been conjugated for he or she, or they singular. Okay, but that one is a little bit more complicated, and olla is a really not the best example. But if I go back to like gavella, like I used before, which is to walk, I would say han gaveler. So as I said before, with olla, you'll change it to ole. In this example, I don't think there's any way of saying like ole. I don't think it exists. But typically, when you've got the base of the word, the body of the word, or the vartalo in Finnish, you will have a vowel on the end, and essentially with he or she, you just double the vowel. This is in present tense. It's a little bit different in past tense, but again, hopefully I'll create some more videos and we can go through past tense as well. But these are all of the singular pronouns covered. Next, we're going to go with me olemme. Me olemme. So me is we, or we, plural we. And we've gone from ole to olemme, olemme. So if you see any verbs that end in an mme, that indicates that you're talking about we. So again, really, you wouldn't even need to say me olemme. We could just say olemme, which means we. But in written Finnish, me olemme is the right way to do it. The next one we've got is te olette, te olette. So what's kind of useful is like the me and the te, they kind of copy each other when they conjugate, so that helps a little bit more. So te olette means you, plural. So when I'm talking to a group of people, or talking to a group of people, I might say te olette, which means like you are, plural you. The last one we've got is he or that, which means they are. This one again, similarly to han on, the ovat is conjugated a little bit differently. In all other cases, it will be the same, but the main thing to think about with he or that is it ends in a vat. So whenever you've got the vartalo, or the body of the word, as I've said before, all you're going to do is add vat to the end of the verb, and that indicates they, plural. So as I said before with han, I would consider han as like they, singular, but he or that means they, plural. So if I'm talking about some people and I'm not maybe talking to them to their face, then I might say he or that, which means they are, and then I can add a descripting or a describing word like after or that. And I will probably say that like on and ovat will also be used throughout the language in different ways, not necessarily talking about he or she. So for example, on in the Finnish language means is, and in the English language, for example, you'll use is with lots of different things. For example, this pen is. I'll say this pen is. I'm not talking about a person. The pen is. Similarly with ovat, so he or that means they are, or that means are. So if I've got like two pens, for example, he or that, okay, they are. So ovat and on will be used quite a lot in the Finnish language for different things, not always for people. But all of the rest, so olen, olet, olemme, olette, those endings will always kind of indicate like personal pronouns, like who's being talked about and who's talking. But okay, that's the first lesson from my Finnish language course. I hope it's been helpful, but essentially, as a recap, these are like foundational building blocks to learning Finnish. And then we can build from these to do like, instead of saying I am, I can say I was, or I have been, for example. But everything you do in Finnish will kind of build upon these basic principles. And as I said, in Finnish, there's like a written language, kirjakieli, and a spoken language, puhekieli. And in puhekieli, you probably don't even need to say things like I. When you're saying I am, you can just say am, essentially. Or you are, I can just say like are, but like with the you are kind of ending. So olet instead of olen or olemme. I'll just say olet, which means like you are. I don't need to say sinä, which means you. Anyway, I might be overcomplicating it a little bit, but hopefully that's useful. And hopefully it's interesting to know that like Olla is the base of like all of these different forms of the verb. Because again, like I said, when I was learning Finnish on Duolingo, I didn't realise necessarily that like Olla was the base. And also again, hopefully I've taught you the pattern of how to conjugate any verbs that have double LA, double NA or double RA at the end. But again, hopefully I will try and make some more videos, and we can go over like more things in more detail. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.